My name is Liam Carter, and on the surface I look like any other 26-year-old guy figuring out adulthood one step at a time. I live in a small but cozy apartment in the city with my girlfriend, Emma, and work as a freelance photographer and part-time editor for a travel blog. It's not the kind of job that makes anyone rich, but it gives me freedom. Freedom to work odd hours, freedom to explore, freedom to hide certain parts of myself. And hiding has always been my specialty. Ever since I was 13, I've carried a secret. At first, it was just trying on my sister's old dresses when no one was home, fascinated by the swish of fabric, the way the straps hugged my shoulders, the whisper of stockings brushing against my skin. It felt wrong, thrilling, impossible, and yet it felt like me. As I grew older, I tried to bury that part of myself under baggy hoodies, sports, and sarcasm. But the desire never left. Now, as an adult, I sometimes let myself indulge when Emma's away or when I know I won't be interrupted. A dress I ordered online. A wig carefully tucked in a shoebox. A compact with foundation and blush hidden at the back of the bathroom cabinet. Every time I slip into that secret world, I feel alive. Yet every time, the fear of being caught gnaws at me. The story really begins in the summer, when Emma and I decided to spend 2 weeks at my aunt's countryside house. She had invited us, said the place was too big and lonely for her since my uncle passed. More importantly, she hinted that my cousins would also be visiting. Sophie and Claire, sisters who were my age and who I hadn't seen in years. The countryside estate wasn't glamorous. It was an old farmhouse with creaky wooden floors, sprawling fields of tall grass, and a big attic that smelled of cedar and dust. But to me, it felt like stepping into a different life. The air smelled fresher, the nights were darker, and the silence was heavy but soothing. I didn't realize at the time how much that house would expose me. Emma and I had been together for almost 3 years. She was smart, grounded, and had this sharp wit that could disarm me in seconds. I loved her more than I could put into words. She was my anchor, my reason to keep pushing forward in work and life. But she didn't know about my crossdressing. I told myself it was to protect her. I told myself she wouldn't understand, that she would see me as less of a man, that maybe she'd leave me. The truth was I was terrified. Terrified of losing her, terrified of being rejected, terrified of being seen. And so, I kept that part of me tucked away in shadows and half-truths. On our second night at the farmhouse, after a long day of unpacking and catching up with family, Emma and my cousins decided to have a girls' night in. They were drinking wine, laughing in the living room, and eventually dared each other to dig through old wardrobes in the attic. I should have known nothing good would come from that. I followed them up, mostly because I didn't trust Emma not to make fun of my childhood photos stored up there. The attic was full of boxes, moth-eaten blankets, and racks of vintage dresses from my aunt's youth. The girls squealed over sequins, puff sleeves, and forgotten shoes. And then it happened. One of them, Claire, I think, held up a soft pastel dress, joking, "Liam, this would look adorable on you. You've got the figure for it." They all laughed. I blushed, laughed nervously, but the comment hit too close to home. I wanted to protest, to wave it off, but before I could, Sophie added, "No, seriously, with your hair and face? You'd totally pass as a girl." The attic roared with laughter again. Emma smirked, but said nothing. I forced a chuckle, tried to move the conversation along. But their words stuck. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. The idea rolled around in my mind, equal parts thrilling and dangerous. They had said it jokingly, but what if they weren't wrong? The next day, Emma went grocery shopping with my aunt, leaving me alone in the house. My cousins were sunbathing outside. The attic called to me like a siren song. I don't know what possessed me, but I went up there, shut the creaky door, and started pulling dresses off the rack. My hands shook as I slipped one over my head. The fabric was cool against my skin. I found a pair of heels that almost fit. In a dusty box, there was even a wig, probably from some costume party decades ago. When I finally stood in front of the old, cracked mirror, I didn't see Liam. I saw her. And it was intoxicating. I didn't realize until later that the attic door hadn't clicked shut all the way. and I didn't hear the soft footsteps climbing the stairs. Until it was too late. Liam? The voice froze my blood. It was Sophie. She stood in the doorway, eyes wide, mouth parted in shock. For a heartbeat, the world went still. And then she smiled. A slow, mischievous smile. "Oh my God," she whispered. "You look like a girl." Her eyes glittered with amusement, and something else. Something sharper. And in that moment, I knew my secret wasn't mine anymore. Sophie's voice hung in the air like a blade. I froze in front of the mirror, hands gripping the hem of the pastel dress, as if I could tear myself free of it and slip back into the safety of normalcy. But Sophie didn't move. She just leaned against the attic doorframe, arms crossed, a smirk tugging at her lips. "You actually pull it off," she said softly. "I mean, wow." Heat flushed through my body. "Sophie, I can explain." She raised an eyebrow. "Can you?" I opened my mouth, but no words came out. What could I possibly say? That I was just joking? That I had tripped and somehow landed in a vintage dress, wig, and heels? The excuse wouldn't survive 2 seconds. Her smirk deepened, but there was no malice in her eyes. Only curiosity. And something else, mischief. "Relax," she said finally. "I'm not going to tell Emma. Or Claire. Or anyone." The weight pressing down on my chest eased just slightly. But Sophie's grin widened. "You have to let me play along." My throat went dry. "Play along?" "Yeah. You can't just put on a dress and wig and then act like nothing happened. I mean, look at you." She stepped closer, circling me like a hawk. "You could totally pass. And I think we should see just how far this goes." I shook my head, panicked. No, Sophie, you don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly." She lowered her voice, conspiratorial. "You're scared, but you're also kind of thrilled. Admit it." Her words cut right through me because they were true. My silence gave me away, and Sophie knew she had me. That night, while Emma and Claire were downstairs chatting with my aunt, Sophie cornered me in the kitchen. She poured herself a glass of water, leaned against the counter, and whispered, "So, about earlier." I swallowed hard. "Forget about it. Please. Forget it." She smirked. "Not a chance. That was way too much fun. And besides," she tapped the rim of her glass, "you looked happy. Happier than I've seen you all weekend." Her words stung because they were true. I began, but she cut me off. "Don't worry. Your secret's safe with me. But here's the deal." She leaned in, lowering her voice. "I want to see her again." "Her?" I whispered. "Yeah," Sophie said with a grin. "Your girl's side. Your pretty cousin." The phrase made my stomach twist. "No, Sophie, I can't." "Yes, you can. And you will. Unless you want me to accidentally mention something to Emma about what I saw in the attic." The air left my lungs. She wouldn't. She couldn't. But the glint in her eyes told me she could. I felt trapped. And yet, deep down, a small part of me, the part one hated, wanted her to push. After a long silence, I finally whispered, "Fine." The next day, while Emma went into town with my aunt again, Sophie dragged me upstairs. She had already picked out a dress, a knee-length floral sundress with delicate straps. "Perfect for you," she said, tossing it at me. My hands trembled as I held it. "Sophie, don't worry. I'll help." She pulled out a small makeup bag she had brought for the trip. My pulse quickened. Minutes later, I found myself sitting on the attic's dusty stool, Sophie applying foundation with a brush. She hummed softly as she worked, completely at ease. "You've got really good skin," she said. "Totally unfair." I shut my eyes, trying to steady my breathing. Every brushstroke, every dab of powder, made me feel like I was sinking deeper into something I couldn't escape. By the time she was done, I barely recognized the reflection staring back at me. My jawline softened under the contouring, my lips shone with a faint pink gloss, my eyes looked bigger and brighter. And then she slipped the dress over my head. It fit almost too perfectly. The fabric swayed when I moved, brushing against my legs. When I turned to the mirror, Sophie clapped her hands. "See? I told you. You're wow." My heart pounded in my chest. I looked like a girl. Not just a man in a dress. A girl. And the strangest part was I loved it. For the next few days, Sophie made a game of it. Whenever Emma and Claire weren't around, she'd sneak me into the attic or her bedroom, transforming me again. Different dresses, different hairstyles, different shades of lipstick. She even gave me a name, Lila. At first, I resisted. I told her this was dangerous, that Emma could walk in at any second, that Claire could catch us. But Sophie had an answer for everything. "That's what makes it exciting," she whispered. And she was right. The thrill of being on the edge of discovery made every second electric. But at night, when I lay next to Emma, guilt gnawed at me. She had no idea. If she found out not only about the crossdressing but that her cousin was the one pushing me into it, what would she think? On the 5th day, everything nearly collapsed. I had just finished changing back into my regular clothes after one of Sophie's sessions when Claire barged into her sister's room. "Why is the door locked?" Claire demanded. Sophie shot me a look, then casually opened the door. "Because I didn't want you stealing my eyeliner, obviously." Claire rolled her eyes. But as she stepped inside, her gaze lingered on me. On the faint trace of lipstick I hadn't wiped off properly, on the slight shimmer of blush still dusted across my cheeks. Her brow furrowed. "You look different," she said slowly. My heart stopped. Sophie, ever quick on her feet, laughed it off. "Oh, he just let me practice on him. Makeup's makeup, right? Don't read too much into it." Claire narrowed her eyes. She didn't push further, but I could tell she wasn't convinced. From that moment on, I felt her eyes on me more often. Watching. Calculating. The walls were closing in. As the days passed, Lila became harder to put away. Sophie encouraged me, telling me I was beautiful, telling me I was convincing, telling me I was free when I was dressed as her. And she wasn't wrong. When I walked across the attic in a pair of borrowed heels, when I tucked a strand of wig hair behind my ear, when I heard Sophie call me Lila, I felt something I couldn't explain. But the guilt grew, too. Every time Emma kissed me goodnight, every time she talked about our future, I felt like a fraud. And then came the moment I feared most. Emma knocked on the attic door one afternoon. "Liam? Are you up there?" My blood ran cold. I was in full dress, makeup flawless, Sophie snapping pictures of me on her phone. We froze. The doorknob rattled, and Emma's voice grew sharper. "Why's the door locked?" Brock sat in silence, the hum of the car filling the void between them. His hands trembled in his lap, the polish on his nails gleaming faintly in the dashboard light. He caught his reflection in the passenger mirror. Lashes still long, lips faintly tinted pink, his wife's jacket draped around his shoulders like a shield. Ava drove steadily, her face unreadable, her knuckles tight around the wheel. Finally, she broke the silence. "You know what this means, right?" Her voice was calm, but there was something behind it, something that made Brock's stomach twist. He swallowed hard. "That I embarrassed us tonight?" Ava's eyes flicked toward him for just a second, sharp and piercing. "No." "That we can't go back. Not after this." His chest tightened. "Ava, I didn't mean for her." She cut him off, her lips curving into a smile that was equal parts dangerous and amused. "Don't apologize. I've made my decision. If they saw you as my wife tonight, then maybe that's exactly who you're meant to be." Brock's breath caught in his throat. His heart pounded, so hard it almost hurt. Ava didn't look like she was joking. He turned to her, voice trembling. "You mean permanently?" Ava didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached across the console, resting her hand on his thigh. Her touch was gentle, but her grip was firm, possessive. Her eyes stayed on the road. "Let's just say," she whispered, "tonight was only the beginning." The city lights blurred past the window as Brock sat frozen, the weight of her words pressing down on him. And for the first time, he realized he wasn't sure if he wanted to fight it. The next morning, Brock woke up expecting everything to feel like a bad dream. But when he sat up, he realized his wife had laid out clothes for him, not his clothes. On the chair by the dresser sat a soft lilac blouse, a matching skirt, and a pair of nude heels. On top of them, neatly placed, was the lipstick Ava had used on him the night before. His chest tightened. "She can't be serious," he muttered under his breath. Just then, Ava appeared in the doorway, a steaming cup of coffee in her hand. She looked him over, her expression calm but firm. "Morning, sweetheart," she said smoothly, setting the cup on the nightstand. "You'll wear that today." Brock's stomach dropped. Ava, last night was just... She crossed the room and leaned down, pressing a finger to his lips.
"No."
"Last night was the start. You looked perfect, and I won't let you crawl back into hiding." His pulse raced as she picked up the blouse and held it out. "Now," she whispered, her tone half loving, half commanding, "be a good girl for me." Brock stared at the blouse, torn between panic and a strange, thrilling warmth spreading through his chest. He wanted to resist, but part of him craved the surrender. And Ava knew it. Brock's hands trembled as he reached for the blouse. He could feel Ava's eyes on him, sharp yet patient, like she already knew which choice he'd make. His throat was dry, his mind screaming to refuse, yet his body betrayed him, moving closer to the fabric. He lifted it slowly, the silky texture brushing his skin, sending a shiver through him. Ava smiled faintly, her arms folded, waiting. But just as he raised the blouse to his chest, a knock thundered on the front door. Both of them froze. "Brock? Ava? It's your cousins. We thought we'd drop by early." Brock's blood ran cold. His eyes darted from the blouse in his hands to Ava's knowing smirk. "You'd better decide quickly," Ava whispered. "Because when that door opens, they'll see someone. The question is, will it be Brock or my pretty girl?" The knock came again, louder this time. Brock's heart pounded so hard he thought it might burst. His hand clenched the blouse tighter. And then,